Welcome back. I am your host. I'm Attorney Steven Leahy. This is the IRS Radio Hour on AM560 The Answer. We are joined by the crowd, the group, Deborah Schreiner, Jim Leahy. I am, again, Attorney Steven Leahy.
Deborah, I didn't say you're the best in the business.
Why didn't you say that?
I forgot. I'm sorry. You are the best in the business.
Thanks,
I loved
Jim.
your introduction.
Good.
You
I'm
really
glad.
do a great job. You really do. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you're having a good time out there. Remember, if you guys do have access to the internet, if you do, which is ridiculous, everybody kind of does now, but still.
Maybe some people don't.
I understand, but I'm just making, if you guys have access to the internet, have a computer, have a YouTube account, or if you don't, are looking to get one, go on to YouTube every Friday around this time or a little bit earlier, between like 2 and 3 o'clock. And we do a live stream of this show, heard Sunday at 5, which you're listening to right now. We did it on YouTube. That way you can ask questions instead of getting the pen and piece of paper out, and you're able to ask live questions, and we will answer that for you.
I have to laugh because someone was talking about this, about the kids. Those kids, they can't even write cursive anymore. What the older
I had
people,
a kid the other day.
people.
I wrote cursive, and the kid goes, "Wow, you can do that?" I was like,
I know. So
right,
but so older people are like, those kids can't even write cursive, and then the kid looks at it. But Grandma, you can't even log onto the computer. Okay, so I get it.
True. Yeah, you know what? There is.
It's a different thing.
Yes.
You can't even log. So I get it. But let's do the next segment.
It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
I love old school, new school. That's what I love about this song and our radio show and YouTube. I love all that stuff. I like to mix the.
It's got that.
And
it's got that feel.
It's like with me with the fedora, as you mentioned. I wear a fedora, and then I have a nice aluminum briefcase, so it's kind of new school, old school. I love that. I love old school.
You do have the aluminum. It always goes off through the security at the Cubs game.
Even when you put it on, the side of it, it always goes off.
What's in there, sir? Files.
I can't tell you. I have to kill you. Anyway, today I'm going to talk. As I was mentioning, I think everything comes in cycles, right? So in my office,
I've noticed that
you have the same thing happen. Yeah, it's like out of nowhere. So I won't help people with Chapter 7 for many months, and all of a sudden, 3 people this last week come in and we're talking about Chapter 7.
Really?
And it's kind of amazing. Now, one was an older client who I did a Chapter 7 for many years ago, and then one was a tax outfit. So remember, there's 6 things you can do if you owe the IRS money, and one of those things.
Hold on. Before you do, ladies and gentlemen, get the pen and piece of paper out. Okay, write it down.
Okay, do you want me to review the 6 things, or it's just?
Can you just review the 6 things very quickly?
I'll do the reasons. First thing I can do is I can pay them. The second thing I can do is I can do an installment agreement. The third thing
the second thing I can do is installment agreement?
Installment agreement. Okay. The third thing there's different types of these. So every one of these I can do a whole show on each one of these things. The third thing you can do is you can get the offer and compromise. That's what you hear. You can pay pennies on a dollar.
Shows ago.
Yes. Pay pennies on a dollar. Okay. The fourth thing you can do is what they call currently not collectible status, and that's when I can prove I can't pay the IRS. The fifth thing you can do is you can file for protection under the bankruptcy laws. Now, bankruptcy and the law and tax law get very complicated when they get mixed up, so if you're thinking about bankruptcy and you owe the IRS some money, you better get somebody who really understands this kind of thing. And then the sixth thing you can do, and this is what almost all of my clients do before they hire me, is you can do nothing. Right, and you let the thing go where it's going, and lose sleep over it whenever you think about it, and it'll pop up every so often, because that's the biggest thing we always hear. We did that on our commercial, right? That you can't.
The good night's sleep?
Yeah, people.
Are you selling a pillow?
Stop! People can't get a good night's sleep, and that's a big thing. Okay, so again, this week I get to Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and sometimes when you have a tax problem, the fastest, easiest, cheapest way to fix it is to file for protection under the bankruptcy laws. But you got to be very careful, because not all your taxes are dischargeable in bankruptcy, and it really matters on how old they are and how there's some deadlines. And I'm not going to get into that in this version or episode, but suffice it to know that there's some deadlines that are involved and some important dates, and you have to make sure that you account for all these dates before you start going to file bankruptcy. But I wanted to give kind of a synopsis of Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And if you think of the bankruptcy code as a book, and if you divide that book into different chapters, that's why you hear so much about a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 11 or a Chapter 13 or a Chapter 12 or now Chapter 9, name, which is municipalities. So you hear about all these chapters, and that's why, because it's all found in this book, the bankruptcy book. And the most common type of bankruptcy falls under Chapter 7 of this book. And the title of Chapter 7 is called liquidation. And so technically what happens under a Chapter 7 liquidation is all your assets above a certain level of exemptions allowed by law are taken from you and sold. And then the proceeds of that sale are used to pay your creditors, all or a portion of what their claims are. Now, in a vast majority of cases, there aren't any assets above that level of exemptions allowed by law. And so almost everybody who files for protection under the bankruptcy law they don't lose anything. And most of their debts are discharged. And as I mentioned, some of the tax debts aren't going to be dischargeable.
Being a creditor would be a terrible job.
It is. And I had a client who runs his own business having some tax issues, and he got a notice today that someone that owed him money filed for protection under the bankruptcy laws. And he sent me this. What does it mean? I'm trying to collect from this guy. I told him, now there's an automatic stay in place. Don't call the guy. Don't try to collect, because that's a violation of court order. Okay, and when you violate the court order, you can be sued, and it's going to cost you money. And I understand you're losing money because the guy's filing bankruptcy and he owes you money and you need the money. But if you try to collect it after the court told you not to, you're going to be in big trouble. So don't do that. Okay.
You know what? We've never talked about that on this show. The catch-22 between being a creditor or being a creditee. Debtor.
Debtor.
I get
it. That's the technical terms that we use in bankruptcy law.
But just think about that. You're sitting there, you're doing a job, you own your own business, and all of a sudden you're like,
I know somebody.
I need this. And then I'm about to file bankruptcy because I can't pay anything.
Exactly.
I need your money.
Exactly.
I did a job for you, and you are not paying me.
Exactly. And usually, when you go to the 341 meeting, and so let me just kind of say, there's a couple steps to a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. First, you file the petition, and that's very complicated, and that's why you need help to do it. The second step is what they call the automatic stay, and I just alluded to that, and that's when the court has an order that says, hey, this guy filed bankruptcy. As a creditor, you have to leave him alone. You can't call him. You can't send him letters. You can't try to collect in any way. You can't go to court. You can't bring him to court. Okay, you can't do that. And you're violating the court order if you do. The third thing is what you do is we go to this 341 meeting, and it's called the 341 meeting because of the section of the bankruptcy code, section 341, calls for this meeting of creditors. Now, it's usually just it's kind of a routine thing. You go in, you meet with the trustee, and he asks you some questions. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes. Usually, if somebody shows up there, it's usually some person who doesn't understand bankruptcy laws, and they think if they go to this meeting, they can get the money that the guy owes them. And the answer is you're probably not going to get the money that the guy owes you. He's filing bankruptcy. And unless you could show fraud, and sometimes you can't show fraud because the guy more than maybe he didn't report something that he owns and he didn't report it on his schedules. So maybe you should look at that and make sure that he reported if he owns something and he didn't put it down. That could be very detrimental to the guy who filed. But anyway, Chapter 7 is sometimes the easiest, fastest way to overcome your financial problems.
Can I stop you right there?
Yes.
Remember the key word sometimes. Everybody's situation is different. You're not going to know if you can qualify for Chapter 7. Now, I'm not giving legal advice whatsoever.
And you can't,
I need to disclose that.
I don't like the word qualify, but it's true that some people can't file a Chapter 7.
Yes. Am I correct on this? So I'm not stepping over boundaries.
Because sometimes if your income is too high, and maybe we should talk about that maybe next time. We'll talk about if I have too high of an income, can I still file a Chapter 7?
But ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to know your situation unless if you don't call Open Tax Resolution, have Steven Leahy sit down, Attorney Steven Leahy, I apologize, go over your particular situation and go through the steps to see what works best for you. Because Chapter 7 might not work best for you.
Like any legal question, whenever I get a legal question, the answer is almost always sometimes.
So anyway, remember, ladies and gentlemen, Open Tax Resolution is there for you. 312-664-6649 to visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. It's going to be your help to fight the IRS. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time here, but I just wanted to say, like any profession, it is a practice. Am I correct?
It is a practice.
It is always It is always a practice. But you know what? You've practiced a lot.
I have practiced a lot. I've helped a lot of people.
You've gotten good.
I've helped a lot of people. And I can help you if you call me.
Open
312-664-6649.
I apologize.
No, 312-664. Stepping all over me.
312-664-6649 to visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to let Perry Mason take it away. But remember, join us after the commercial break. We're going to talk a little bit about what President Trump Trump is doing. What does that mean?
What's he up to?
Stay tuned to find out on AM560
The Answer.